Because, guys, the statistics, they don't lie. We are living longer. And while that is good news, there was an article on the Kiplinger website that calls longevity the biggest risk when you're planning for retirement, literally the risk of living too long. Obviously, that's something that should be celebrated, not dreaded or, faced with concern. So how do you help ensure that you don't outlive what you saved, aside from anything nefarious, of course?
Yeah, I think if you look at the stats that are out there, outliving your income is probably one of the biggest fears of a retiree today, and rightfully so. We've seen kind of a big transition as far as how society and retirees are today. In the good old days, if I go back to my parents' or grandparents' age, usually they worked for a company their entire life, and when they retired, they had Social Security and a pension, and hopefully a little bit of savings to have some fun. And today that transition has really come back to you need to save for your own retirement. With company-sponsored 401ks is where the lion's share of the money goes. And when we see like 2022 where the market's a little crazy, it can give some people some gray hair and make them a little bit worried. A couple of tips and pointers that I would say is, number one, is have a realistic expectation of how long you might live. Make sure you use your best judgment on life expectancies, based upon your family, your health history. But, otherwise there's tools that are out there that talk about, how to live to 100, calculators, what is some of your health habits, taking that into consideration. And what I would say is I would bet on you living.
Right.
We talked earlier about Social Security and how a lot of people make a decision to draw Social Security because they ran what's called the break-even analysis, meaning that they did a calculation that said, how long do I have to live in order to get my money back? I say don't look at it from breaking even. What I would look at it is bet on one of the two of you going to be here for a long time and make decisions to make that income last as much as possible, which is number two, maximizing your Social Security benefits. That really can be a benefit that if you take it early, you take a lifetime penalty. If you wait past your full retirement age, you can get automatic increases up until age 70 and get guaranteed income that could be 24% or even higher with the cost of living by waiting just a few short years. Consider gradually phasing into retirement. I've run into a lot of folks that want to continue to work past normal retirement age. I met with a gentleman this week, and I asked him that question. I said, how much longer do you plan on working? And he said, I got a pretty good gig.
Sure.
They let me work from home, and I really like it. It's working out well, and I consider retirement optional and work optional. So it's a matter of I'll stop working when it's not fun anymore. But up until then, he's having a good time. We see a lot of people that do, some consulting work or, do some things that they wanted to do, and allows them to kind of gradually phase into retirement time. So different choices.
Yeah, I see that a lot, especially with, dealing with the Medicare. One of the things that I do is I'll go through the health insurance through their employer, and I'm a numbers nerd, and we've admitted that we both love the numbers, right? And sometimes it makes sense to stay on your employer plan, but what I'm finding is a lot of people are working past 65, far more now than ever before, and it was kind of like that roller coaster. There about 4 or 5 years ago, people were working longer, and then everybody's like, during the pandemic, they said, I'm just getting out of here. They just couldn't take it. Now I'm seeing that come back the other way and, headed back up that roller coaster hill, right? Where people are working past 65 a lot more now. And, it could be because of obviously the economy, inflation, and they just need to keep working because their portfolio is not performing the way it was. But the people working to, like you said, people working into their 70s. I've talked with a couple of other insurance brokers. They're both looking to retire, but they're both 72 years old. 72 and they're still working. Not very hard, but they're working, right? Me personally, I love what I do. It's fun. It's except for AEP, it's not real stressful. But I mean, this is a good gig, man. And I love it. It's easy work, and I'm helping people. As long as I can still be productive and help people, and my health holds out, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't work into at least 70. I committed to 10 years to you in this company, and that's what I'm looking at. And I see that all the time with a lot of other people out there too. So we don't have that crystal ball. We don't know when things are going to make a turn for the worse, but what people are telling me is, as long as I have a good quality of life, I'm able to do the things that I want to do. Um, the 100 is a nice number for everybody to hit, and that's what people are telling me.
Yeah, so when you're looking at how to manage longevity risk, another thing to really take into consideration is make sure when you're looking at your sources of income, again, like I said before, I'm betting on you living. So you want to make sure that you can cover your minimum monthly income needs by reliable income sources. So that's things like Social Security, pensions, and annuity income. A way to put your head on your pillow at night is to know that you have some of those strong, reliable income sources in place. That way you're not just subject to the lottery of the returns of the stock market. And then the final thing I would say is make sure that you put a shield around your assets and income sources if there's a healthcare crisis. I'd say one of the reasons that I see a lot of people are forced to retire earlier than they thought is because of an unexpected or unplanned for healthcare crisis comes up. Now, in addition to that, in later years, talking about having your life savings wiped out if a spouse goes into a nursing home, under the spend down laws, if you don't have any type of protection in place, for the most part, there's going to be countable and uncountable assets. And for a married couple, there are some things that are protected, like a certain level of investment assets or a minimum monthly income need, maybe one car, prepaid funeral, things like that. But for folks that have saved and accumulated money, even a married couple, they could drain down their assets very quick if one of the two of them ends up in a facility. Now, it gets even worse for somebody who is, single, and that situation, the government really expects you to spend down all of your assets. Of course, there are some strategies that are out there, but for the most part, the government is not going to take care of you if you have a healthcare crisis, and that could also increase your longevity risk if you haven't addressed that issue.
Yeah, the good thing is to put things in place now when you have a choice to make those plans. You don't want to leave it in the hands of somebody else that really doesn't know what your plans are or what your wishes are. If you're healthy enough to make those decisions now, I was having this discussion with my mom. She's 84 years old, and she's starting to get to a point where she doesn't need anything. Like for Christmas, we're talking about Christmas already, and she says, "Don't buy me anything. I don't need anything." Because at some point, and she, we're being real here, right? At some point, she's no longer going to be here, and we're going to have to do some of these things. Talk about long-term care. I said, "Mom, why don't you make decisions now, while you're mentally here and understand what's going on, and you can give things and make decisions that you can control versus." If something happened to you health-wise and you're not able to make those decisions, you're at the mercy of possibly the government or whoever is going to be able to put you into a home and get your care taken care of. Make these decisions now while you can, so you don't have to worry about the decisions when it comes time.
And when you have to make those decisions under duress, as we've talked about so many times, whether it is a healthcare thing or tied to the market, when you make those emotional decisions, that is when a lot of mistakes can happen. Look, we certainly hope, I think I'm speaking on behalf of Nolan and Scott and honestly the entire team at America's Retirement Headquarters, we hope that you get to work as long as you want to. Now, sometimes there are situations where that is taken out of your hands. Maybe the money isn't there, the income isn't there, you have to work a little bit longer. Sometimes you're forced into retirement a little earlier, whether it is a healthcare thing or layoffs or, maybe there's a situation where you run the numbers and you suddenly figure out that you can actually retire, but you want to keep working, as they mentioned with that client earlier who kind of has it in their back pocket to know that one day they can walk away whenever they want to, if they want to, but they have a plan in place. That's what it all comes down to is, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, knowing that if and when that time comes, you don't have to make those emotional decisions. So it all starts with that phone call, 419-794-3030. Pick up the phone, give a call, start developing that retirement strategy with the team at America's Retirement Headquarters, 419-794-3030, or go online to americasretirementheadquarters.com.